Starfleet vessels are presented as instruments of discovery. Clean corridors, efficient systems, professionals united by common purpose. The official story frames shipboard life as disciplined service in pursuit of noble ideals. But the official story was written for recruitment brochures and Federation councils, not for the people who spend years inside hulls they cannot leave. The real structure of life aboard a starship is not defined by exploration. It is defined by confinement, hierarchy, and the constant weight of operational necessity pressed against individual humanity. The deeper mechanism is this: a starship is not a vehicle. It is a closed society governed by strict norms, sustained by invisible social pressure, and shaped by the knowledge that escape is impossible. The system does not fail because it is cruel. It fails because it asks human beings to live as components in a machine, and then pretends the cost is voluntary. What looks utopian on the surface becomes something else entirely when viewed as a permanent way of life. Starfleet doctrine optimizes for mission continuity. Every regulation, every shift rotation, every protocol exists to ensure the ship can function under any circumstance. The vessel must remain operational during combat, during diplomatic crisis, during spatial anomaly or viral outbreak or cascading systems failure. The institution assumes that if the mission succeeds, the crew will be sustained by that success. It assumes that purpose is enough. But purpose does not fill the gaps. On screen, we see the briefing room. We see the bridge. We see senior officers debating strategy and making choices that ripple across star systems. We do not see the ensign who has not left deck 12 inches 3 months. We do not see the family who eats the same replicated meals in the same quarters every night while the ship hurtles through space they will never touch. We do not see the cumulative psychological cost of living in a society where every interaction is observed, every deviation is noted, and every personal boundary is subordinate to operational readiness. The first constraint is spatial. A Galaxy-class starship carries more than 1,000 people. The vessel is large by naval standards, but it is not infinite. Crew quarters are assigned by rank and family status. Junior officers share spaces. Enlisted personnel live in even tighter arrangements. Families receive larger accommodations, but those quarters are still measured in square meters, not rooms. Every person aboard knows exactly how much space they are entitled to, and they know that space will not expand. The Enterprise D is often held up as the pinnacle of Starfleet comfort. Families live aboard, children attend school. The ship has lounges, holodecks, arboretums. It was designed to be a community, not just a warship. But even the Enterprise operates under the same rule. Once the mission begins, no one leaves. Shore leave is granted when the ship docks at a starbase or inhabited world. Between those intervals, the crew lives inside the same structure, seeing the same bulkheads, walking the same corridors. In Lower Decks, the animated series, junior officers describe their routines in detail: maintenance shifts, duty rosters, buffer time. The work is repetitive, the spaces are limited. The social interactions are constrained by rank and protocol. The series treats this as comedy, but the underlying truth is structural. Most people aboard a starship do not explore strange new worlds. They maintain plasma conduits. They recalibrate sensors. They file reports. They live inside a loop. The psychological term for prolonged confinement in a controlled environment is institutionalization. It does not require bars. It requires routine, limited choice, and dependence on the system for all basic needs. Starfleet does not frame shipboard life as confinement, but the mechanics are identical. The crew cannot leave. They cannot change their environment. They cannot opt out of the hierarchy. Their food, shelter, medical care, and social structure are provided by the institution. Over time, individuals adapt. They internalize the norms. They define themselves in relation to the ship. That adaptation is necessary. Without it, the crew would fracture. But it comes at a cost. The second constraint is hierarchical. Starfleet operates under a strict chain of command. Every crew member has a rank. Every rank has a defined scope of authority. Orders flow downward. Information flows upward. Deviation from this structure is not tolerated. The system is designed to function during crisis, when clear authority prevents chaos. But crisis is not the dominant condition aboard a starship. Most of the time, the ship is traveling between destinations, conducting surveys, or holding position. The hierarchy remains absolute even when the threat is abstract. In The Drumhead, Admiral Sati conducts an investigation aboard the Enterprise. She questions crew members. She isolates them. She uses rank and procedure to create pressure. Picard ultimately confronts her, but the episode reveals how easily the chain of command can be weaponized. The crew has no recourse outside the system. They cannot appeal to an external authority. They cannot leave the ship. They must navigate the hierarchy or be crushed by it. The same dynamic appears in Voyager. Captain Janeway commands a crew stranded in the Delta Quadrant. She makes decisions that determine survival. Her authority is absolute. The crew has no choice but to comply. Because there is no alternative, they cannot transfer. They cannot resign. The ship is the only option. Janeway is acutely aware of this. In Equinox, she confronts Captain Ransom, whose crew resorted to murder to shorten their journey home. The episode does not frame Ransom as insane. It frames him as a captain who made different calculations under the same constraints. Voyager's crew followed Janeway. Equinox's crew followed Ransom. The hierarchy held in both cases. The question is not whether the crew obeys. The question is what the captain asks them to become. Hierarchy does not vanish during off-duty hours. In 10 Forward, crew members gather to relax. But the bartender is Guinan, a civilian advisor to the captain. Conversations are observed. Relationships are noted. Senior officers socialize with junior officers, but the rank structure remains. A lieutenant does not casually challenge a commander's opinion, even over a drink. The social space is not separate from the command structure, it is an extension of it. The third constraint is temporal. Starfleet missions are measured in years. The Enterprise D's mission is officially 5 years, but many crew members serve multiple tours. Families live aboard for the duration of their assignment. Children grow up on the ship. They attend school, make friends, and experience life entirely within Starfleet's framework. They do not choose this existence, their parents chose it for them. In Disaster, the Enterprise suffers a catastrophic systems failure. Counselor Troy takes command of the bridge. 3 children are trapped in a turbolift with Worf, who must deliver one of them when she goes into labor. The episode treats the children's presence as normal. But the deeper truth is that those children were exposed to existential risk because Starfleet allows families on deep space vessels. They were in danger not because of an individual failure, but because the institution decided that the benefit of family stability outweighed the risk of catastrophic loss. The decision to allow families aboard was not accidental. It was a response to earlier failures. In the 23rd century, ships like the original Enterprise did not carry families. Crew members served long tours and returned to starbases for leave. But retention suffered, divorce rates climbed, mental health issues accumulated. Starfleet concluded that separating personnel from their families for years at a time was unsustainable. The solution was to bring the families along. The cost was transferred to the children. They grew up in a closed environment, exposed to hazards their parents accepted voluntarily. They had no choice in the matter. When the Borg attacked at Wolf 359, families died. When ships were destroyed in the Dominion War, families were lost. Starfleet does not publicize these numbers. It does not frame family housing as a strategic vulnerability, but the risk is structural. The fourth constraint is medical and psychological. Starfleet provides comprehensive medical care. Every ship has a sickbay. Larger vessels have full medical staff, counseling services, and emergency surgical capability. The institution takes mental health seriously. Crew members are encouraged to speak with counselors. Psychological evaluations are routine, but the system is still contained within the ship. The doctor is part of the crew. The counselor reports to the captain. There is no external oversight. There is no confidentiality beyond what the institution grants. In Frame of Mind, Commander Riker experiences a psychological breakdown. He believes he is a patient in an alien mental institution. The episode reveals that he was subjected to neural manipulation, but the deeper anxiety is visible. Riker questions his own reality. He does not know if the ship is real or if the institution is real. The episode resolves cleanly, but it exposes the fragility of identity under confinement. Riker's sense of self is sustained by the ship, by his role, by the people around him. When that structure is threatened, he fractures. Counselor Troi provides mental health support to the crew, but she is also a bridge officer. She advises the captain. She participates in command decisions. Crew members who speak with her do so knowing that she has dual obligations. If a crew member expresses doubts about their assignment, Troi must balance their well-being against the ship's operational needs. If a crew member is deemed unfit for duty, they are removed from their post. There is no appeal outside the chain of command. The doctor aboard Voyager is a hologram. He has no personal stake in crew dynamics. He cannot be pressured by rank. But he is also a program. His parameters are defined by Starfleet. His ethical subroutines reflect institutional values. When the crew faces moral dilemmas, the doctor provides guidance, but that guidance is shaped by the same doctrine that governs the ship. He is not an external authority. He is a tool. The fifth constraint is social. A starship is a small community. Everyone knows everyone, or knows of them. Relationships form. Friendships deepen. Romances begin. Conflicts arise. But the community cannot expand. New people arrive only when the ship docks. Departures are rare. The social network is static. Over time, this creates pressure. In the Naked Now, the Enterprise crew is infected by a virus that removes inhibitions. Crew members act on suppressed desires. They confess feelings. They break protocol. The episode treats this as a crisis, but it reveals the baseline tension. Under normal conditions, the crew suppresses enormous amounts of social and emotional friction. They live in close quarters with people they may not like, under a hierarchy they cannot challenge, with no option to leave. The virus does not create the tension, it exposes it. Romantic relationships aboard Starfleet vessels are not forbidden, but they are complicated by rank and duty. Riker and Troi have a history. They serve together. Their personal feelings are subordinate to their professional roles. When their relationship shifts, the entire bridge crew is aware. There is no privacy. There is no separation between personal and professional life. Every interaction is observed. Every choice is noted. Chief O'Brien and Keiko O'Brien live aboard the Enterprise. And later, Deep Space Nine. Their marriage is strained by duty assignments, by danger, by the constant intrusion of Starfleet obligations. In The Assignment, Keiko is possessed by an alien entity that forces O'Brien to sabotage the station. The episode uses body horror and espionage, but the underlying truth is that their relationship exists entirely within Starfleet's operational framework. They have no life outside the institution. When the institution is threatened, their marriage becomes a weapon. The crew cannot form relationships outside the ship. They cannot meet new people except during shore leave. Their social world is the crew. This creates bonding, but it also creates claustrophobia. Friendships become essential, but they also become inescapable. If a friendship sours, the individuals still see each other every day. They still work together. They still share the same corridors, the same lounges, the same replicators. There is no distance. There is no reset. Midway through any deep space mission, the question shifts. It is no longer whether the crew can perform their duties. It is whether they can sustain their humanity while doing so. Starfleet assumes that discipline and purpose will carry them through. But discipline does not address loneliness. Purpose does not fill the absence of choice. The ship functions because individuals suppress their needs in favor of the mission. That suppression is not free. It accumulates. The mechanism that allows a starship to function is the same mechanism that grinds its crew down. The system works because it demands conformity. It demands sacrifice. It demands that individuals define themselves in relation to the institution, not in opposition to it. And for most crew members, this is acceptable. They joined Starfleet voluntarily. They knew the terms. But knowing the terms does not make the cost lighter, it only makes it expected. The sixth constraint is existential. Starfleet vessels encounter threats that can annihilate the crew in seconds. Spatial anomalies, hostile species, cascading warp core failures. The ship is a fragile structure moving through hostile space. The crew lives with this knowledge every day. They train for disaster. They run drills. They prepare for hull breaches, for boarding actions, for evacuation scenarios. But preparation does not eliminate fear. It only channels it. In cause and effect, the Enterprise is caught in a temporal loop. The ship is destroyed repeatedly. The crew experiences the same day over and over, each time ending in catastrophic failure. Dr. Crusher begins to sense the repetition. The crew investigates. They discover the loop and break it. But the episode reveals how close the ship comes to total loss on a routine mission. The anomaly was not hostile. It was not a weapon. It was a spatial phenomenon. The Enterprise was destroyed not because of an enemy, but because space itself is dangerous. The Borg represent a different kind of existential threat. In the best of both worlds, the Enterprise confronts a Borg cube. The crew fights. They adapt. They use unconventional tactics. But the Borg are not defeated by strength. They are defeated by exploiting a weakness in their collective. The crew survives not because they were stronger, but because they found a gap. The next time, the gap may not exist. The Borg will adapt. The threat remains. Captain Picard is assimilated. He becomes Locutus. He is used as a weapon against Starfleet. When he is recovered, he must reconcile what he did while under Borg control. He gave the Borg tactical knowledge. He participated in the destruction of Starfleet vessels. In Family, Picard returns to Earth. He speaks with his brother. He breaks down. The episode does not frame this as weakness. It frames it as the cost of command. Picard survived. His crew survived. But survival is not the same as recovery. The crew of the Enterprise knows what happened to Picard. They know he was assimilated. They know he was used against them. They continue to serve under him. They trust him, but the knowledge remains. The captain was compromised. The captain was turned into a weapon. The same could happen to any of them. The ship protects them, but it cannot protect them from everything. Sometimes, the ship itself becomes the threat. In Starship Mine, the Enterprise is evacuated for a baryon sweep. Picard remains aboard to retrieve a personal item. He discovers terrorists attempting to steal trilithium resin from the warp core. He must stop them alone. The episode is structured as a thriller, but it reveals how vulnerable the ship is when the crew is gone. The vessel is not inherently safe. It is made safe by the people aboard. Without them, it is just metal and plasma conduits. It is inert. The crew gives it purpose. But the crew is also fragile. They can be removed. They can be killed. They can be replaced. The seventh constraint is cultural. Starfleet promotes a specific vision of humanity. It values curiosity, cooperation, and peaceful resolution. It discourages materialism, aggression, and unilateral action. Crew members are expected to embody these values. They are not enforced through punishment. They are enforced through social pressure. The institution rewards conformity and isolates deviation. In the first duty, Cadet Wesley Crusher is involved in a cover-up at Starfleet Academy. He and his squadron attempted a dangerous maneuver. One of them died. The survivors lied to protect the others. Picard confronts Wesley. He does not threaten him. He does not punish him. He explains what Starfleet is. He explains what it means to wear the uniform. Wesley confesses. The episode treats this as a moral victory, but the mechanism is clear. Picard did not appeal to law, he appealed to identity. He told Wesley that lying made him unworthy of the institution. The punishment was not expulsion. The punishment was the loss of belonging. Belonging is the most powerful tool Starfleet has. Crew members define themselves through service. They take pride in their ship. They bond with their crewmates. They internalize the values of the institution. This creates cohesion, but it also creates dependency. A crew member who questions Starfleet's values risks losing their identity. They risk losing their community. They risk being cast out. Lieutenant Worf is a Klingon raised by humans. He serves in Starfleet. He embodies Federation values. But in Redemption, he requests a leave of absence to fight in the Klingon Civil War. Picard denies the request. Worf resigns his commission. He fights for his house. He returns to the Empire. Later, he rejoins Starfleet, but the episode reveals the tension. Worf's loyalty is divided. He is Klingon. He is Starfleet. The institution allows him to serve, but it does not allow him to be both fully. He must choose. When he chooses Starfleet, he sacrifices part of his heritage. When he chooses the Empire, he sacrifices his place in the Federation. There is no synthesis. There is only compromise. The same tension exists for every crew member whose culture conflicts with Federation norms. Bajorans serve aboard Starfleet vessels. They wear the uniform. They follow orders, but their faith remains. Their customs remain. Starfleet tolerates this as long as it does not interfere with duty. But tolerance is not acceptance. It is conditional permission. The moment faith conflicts with orders, the institution reasserts itself. The eighth constraint is operational. Starfleet vessels operate on duty rotations: alpha shift, beta shift, gamma shift. The ship never sleeps. Systems must be monitored constantly. Crew members work 8-hour shifts or longer during crisis. They are rotated through positions to maintain proficiency. They are evaluated regularly. Their performance is documented. Their careers are managed by the institution. In Night, Captain Janeway isolates herself. Voyager is crossing a void with no stars, no systems, no contact. The journey will take months. The crew grows restless. Janeway stops appearing on the bridge. She remains in her quarters. She withdraws. The crew begins to doubt her. Chakotay confronts her. She admits that she feels responsible for stranding them in the Delta Quadrant. She cannot forgive herself. Chakotay reminds her that the crew needs her. She returns to duty. The episode resolves cleanly, but it exposes the operational truth. The captain cannot afford to break. If the captain withdraws, the crew fractures. The institution depends on individual resilience, but it provides no structural support for when that resilience fails. Duty rotations ensure that the ship remains operational, but they also ensure that the crew never fully rests. Off-duty hours are limited. Crew members sleep, eat, and socialize in the gaps between shifts. They are always on call. They can be summoned to their stations at any time. There is no true separation between work and rest. The ship is always the priority. Chief O'Brien works long shifts in engineering. He repairs systems. He improvises solutions. He is good at his job. But in hard time, he is implanted with false memories of serving a 20-year prison sentence. He returns to the station believing he lived those years. He struggles to reintegrate. He becomes hostile. He withdraws from his family. He nearly takes his own life. The episode treats the implanted memories as the trauma, but the deeper issue is that O'Brien was already operating at the edge of his capacity. He was already under constant pressure. The false memories pushed him past the breaking point, but the baseline stress was structural. Starfleet provides recreational facilities. Holodecks allow crew members to experience simulated environments. They can visit forests, oceans, historical settings. They can engage in sports, drama, or fantasy scenarios. But the holodeck is still part of the ship. The experience is artificial. The crew knows this. They cannot escape the ship. They can only pretend to escape for an hour or two before returning to duty. In hollow pursuits, Lieutenant Barclay becomes addicted to the holodeck. He creates programs where he is confident, powerful, respected. He spends more and more time in the simulation. His real-world performance declines. The crew intervenes. Guinan and Geordi help him reintegrate, but the episode reveals the underlying truth. Barclay was not weak. He was isolated. He did not fit the Starfleet ideal. He was anxious, uncertain, awkward. The real world offered him no relief. The holodeck did. The institution treats his addiction as a personal failing, but the structure created the conditions for it. The clincher arrives when the ship is pushed to its absolute limit. In Year of Hell, Voyager is erased from history by a temporal weapon. The crew experiences a year of constant combat, starvation, and systems failure. The ship is barely intact. The crew is exhausted. Captain Janeway refuses to surrender. She keeps them fighting. At the end, the timeline is reset. The year never happened. The crew retains no memory of it, but the audience sees what they endured. The episode is not about victory. It is about how much a crew can be asked to sacrifice, and how much they will give before they break. The Year of Hell is not an anomaly. It is the logical endpoint of the constraints that define shipboard life. The crew cannot leave. They cannot rest. They cannot appeal to an outside authority. They can only endure. Janeway asks them to endure beyond reason, and they do. Not because the system supports them, because they have no other choice. The same pattern appears aboard Deep Space Nine during the Dominion War. The station is a fixed position. It cannot retreat. The crew must hold the line. In the Siege of AR-558, Starfleet personnel defend a captured Dominion position. They have been there for months. They are exhausted. They are traumatized. They are losing. Captain Sisko visits the position. He sees what the war has done to them. He cannot relieve them. He cannot send reinforcements. He can only acknowledge their sacrifice and move on. The episode does not glorify their suffering. It does not frame them as heroes. It frames them as people who were placed in an impossible situation and told to hold. The institution does not fail them because it is cruel. It fails them because it has no other option. The war demands bodies. The crew provides them. Shipboard life in Starfleet is sustainable only because individuals internalize the cost. They accept confinement. They accept hierarchy. They accept constant risk. They accept the suppression of personal needs in favor of the mission. They do this not because they are coerced, but because the institution has convinced them that the mission is worth it. And for many, it is. But the cost remains. The official story frames Starfleet as a volunteer service. It frames the crew as professionals pursuing a noble goal. It does not mention the children who grow up without choice. It does not mention the marriages strained by duty. It does not mention the junior officers who spend years in the same corridors, performing the same tasks with no prospect of departure. It does not mention the cumulative weight of living inside a system that offers purpose but not freedom. The deeper truth is that Starfleet vessels function as closed societies. They have their own norms, their own hierarchies, their own methods of enforcing conformity. The institution does not need to punish dissent because dissent is almost impossible. The crew has nowhere else to go. They have no life outside the ship. Their identity is defined by service. To question the mission is to question themselves. This is not unique to Starfleet. Every military organization, every long-term expedition, every institution that demands total commitment creates the same dynamic. But Starfleet does not frame itself as a military. It frames itself as an exploration service. It frames itself as the best of humanity, reaching outward. That framing obscures the cost. It makes the sacrifice invisible. It allows the institution to extract everything from its people while calling it voluntary. The ship is not a vehicle, it is a way of life, and for those who live it, there is no exit. There is only the mission, the next shift, the next crisis. There is only the knowledge that the ship will continue, and they will continue with it until they cannot.